would you rather snow or rain?
Oh, God, neither. I'm a black girl. I got black girl hair. I got to worry about that type of stuff. We don't like the wet. That's our kryptonite. No. No to snow and no to rain. That's what I'm saying. No. Bring out the sunshine.
I got that dish. Dish. I got that dish. I got that dish. That dish.
Hey, y'all. It's Onika.
And J.R.
And you are dishing with DaintyDysh. How you doing, J.R.?
I am doing, I'm doing okay. It's not too good outside, but, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shit show.
I shit you not.
Well, what's going on in the world of JR other than the terrible weather we've been having?
Nothing much. I'm just, I'm out and about, just trying to get some more clients. I guess that's what I'm about right now.
You on that hustle?
Yeah, that's all I'm about. I mean, I just finished The Ideal Team Player, How to Recognize and Cultivate the 3 Essential Virtues by Patrick. I don't know how to say his last name. I don't know how to say his last name.
We'll put it in the
I'll put it in the bottom. But anyway, it's about how to build a proper team,
What are the 3 essential values? Is that cheating for me to ask you?
Yeah, read the book.
Oh. Gotta read the book.
Yeah, you gotta read the book, Build a good team, but you should know that I'm trying to build a good team, and that means I gotta make sure people around me have those virtues and stuff. So I mean, I don't know if you do.
What?
So you might be having to exit the team soon.
Oh no, I want to have those virtues, whatever they are. I'm more of a vice girl anyways.
Exactly. So anyway, what are you up to?
I just finished my 10-week facilitation course, and I'm very excited. I'm going to be facilitating a storytelling class in June at one of the learning centers in the city. So I'm really, really excited about that.
Oh, neat.
Cousin N from New York has got me watching Korean dramas now. So I'm deeply involved.
You're onto that,
deeply involved in Korean soap operas at this point. Like, I can't tell you how much, like, I feel like I understand the language, like, a little bit now that I've been watching the Korean soap operas. So I feel like I'm right there in Korea with them, just experiencing everything. Like, it's very exciting.
Yeah, my former mother-in-law used to watch those. So, I don't know. That's all I can say.
Not surprising. See, she is Asian.
Yeah. What are we doing today?
Of course, it is the second Wednesday of the month. Therefore, it is all kinds of crazy. We have a guest with us today, Faith Rockburne. How are you doing? Talk to us.
I am good, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so, so much. We really appreciate you joining us today and telling us your story.
You're very welcome.
I'm going to shoot it over to JR because I know he's got a couple of questions for you.
Oh, we're just going to dive right in?
We're going to dive in. We should ask Faith how she's doing today. We forgot to do that.
You did ask me how I'm doing.
I'm just anxious to hear your story. Like, it's one of those stories that's it's powerful and it's incredible. And I'm so excited. Jared's going to be hearing it for the first time as well as everyone else. And I'm just so excited for them to hear this story. And I guess my passion's really pushing through.
I know, but you're jumping. Like, what about the 21 questions?
Oh, yeah. Do you have a new question for that?
No, I think you have a new question.
Uh-oh. I actually want to ask the old question because I think I know what Faith is going to say. I've gotten to know her pretty well, and I'm going to guess what she's going to say, but I think I know what she's going to say. So I'm going to ask that old question.
Fair enough. Go for it.
What is one luxury that you currently have that's not a necessity that you couldn't live without?
Judge Judy.
Yes, I knew it! Faith loves Judge Judy.
Faith loves her Judge Judy.
Oh my God.
That is my therapy in a lot of ways because I always tell people on my worst days, and people can't believe that this is what I do, but on my worst days, I go to this whole file of the best Judge Judy shows, and I watch her ream somebody's deserved arse out, and that makes me feel really good.
So good.
So I have this whole catalog that I can go to where she gets really, really angry and really wonderful Judge Judy. And that's, other people do yoga, other people do meditation. I watch Judge Judy along with some other stuff, but Judge Judy, she rocks. She's 75 years old. She makes $45 million a year.
I'm not mad at her. Have you heard the story of how she renegotiates every year?
Well, I've
every
heard
3 years?
heard she's really tough, but I don't. What's the story?
No, I don't know. I don't even know. I think I was reading an article, and it says essentially she goes to dinner with like whoever the main guy is at the studio, and she writes a number down, and then they have dinner, and then he looks at the number after, and she's like, either pay me or I walk.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like some ballsy Judge Judy shit right there. That sounds like some stuff.
That's Judge
She's
Judy
a tough
classic.
cookie.
You know,
that's
that's
classic
Judge Judy.
But think about
Classic.
it. You're like, she could walk away and produce that thing on her own
At this point.
and just be on her own. Like she could put that thing on YouTube or whatever
Yeah.
platform or her own website and just stream it from there. I mean,
She has 3 times more viewers than the Tonight Show,
isn't that crazy?
which
That's
is, and
insane.
she
I
is,
love me some Judge Judy.
Yeah, there's nothing like her, and it cuts through all the garbage in life and all the nonsense about, you know, political correctness. And in some ways, she's so common sense and so direct. And if she does ream somebody a new one, it's because they deserve it.
I'm just
So-
trying to figure out how they keep finding people to go on this show.
People dumb enough to go on.
Like, I mean, I'm thinking, like, if I disagree with someone and they're like, I think it's possibly that they pay that they pay for the.
They pay. Okay, I actually know how it happens because I met a guy, just random.
Wow.
Who it's just also some random guy. Anyway, so I met a random guy. He said he had a dispute with his ex-girlfriend, and the ex-girlfriend must have called Judge Judy and offered him to come on the show, and they pay the whatever the fine is that Judge Judy says you have to pay at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
They have to pay airfare, accommodations, hotel, and the fine if they come and do their little situation with each other on the phone or on the television screen.
Right.
So that's how they do it. So they offer to pay the fine.
Okay, so like it's under $5,000, so pretty much.
Yeah, because it's small claims
it's a free
court.
vacation,
Yeah,
pretty much.
and
Yeah.
so when you think about it, other than her salary, it's peanuts to produce. I mean, and I always say that my dream actually is to go to LA and be in the audience of her show.
I've tried to do that, not for her show, but a few others.
I was on People's Court in New York, so I which is
You saw People's Court?
Yeah, with Judge
Fire.
Marilyn Million, and that was
Million.
awesome. But she's no Judge Judy,
Yeah.
as much as I
Yeah.
love her. So my dream, or actually this year, my husband and I were going to drive down from Vancouver to LA and get on that show
Nice.
by hook or by crook. But then Trump came in and we said we refuse to visit the States while he's in. That's just our little...
Yeah, I did New York this past November, and it was interesting. I walked by Trump Tower, and the armed guards were there. It was interesting.
Wow.
It was interesting.
Yeah, it's just
vibe.
our little protest because I mean it's only 2 people saying we're not going to go,
But still.
but you know, I mean I gave up my Judge Judy for that because I won't go there when he's
There's a bunch of things that actually
Yeah.
happen, like because you're not spending airfare to go, or you're not going to drive down there, spend gas. You know,
I'm
you're
not
gonna
supporting
You're not
that.
supporting
I'm
that
not
economy,
supporting
right?
it, but-
I mean, that's huge.
So yeah, it is huge, and I sacrificed my Judge Judy.
The most important
She's got to
part
stay alive till I can
is I
get there.
sacrificed my Judge Judy. Don't worry, that old bat ain't going anywhere.
No, I don't think so.
Shout
either.
out to Judge Judy. But yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we're here for all kinds of crazy. So we discuss mental health. I guess we're all advocates for mental health.
Right.
So you're here as well as an advocate for
am.
mental health. So I guess we want to know your story. Like, I guess can we start what it was like growing up for you before we get into any type of diagnosis or anything like that? Like, you want to talk about your childhood?
Sure. I grew up in a wealthy family in Rosedale, and but the fact is my father had post-traumatic stress disorder, my mother had generalized anxiety disorder, and my uncle had very marked depression. So genetically, pretty much it was waiting for me before I was born, and as I always tell people, it found me. As a child, I was very anxious. I was very morbid. I was attracted to the dark. I cried a lot. I was depressed a lot. And then in grade 11, I had anorexia. So those were the two, those were the kinds of signs that something was not right. But after I had anorexia and I did recover from that, I went on to become a nurse, and then I worked in insurance and finally in a bank. And so my childhood, right? So my childhood, I think, was pretty normal, other than the fact that I would crawl up to the medicine cabinet to self-medicate on baby aspirins, things like that. Things that I look back now and I see were the signs that, you know, I was definitely depressed.
And how old are you when that was happening, the baby aspirin?
Like 3 or 4 years old. That's when it started, and Benylin cough syrup, because I found it gave me this buzz. So, but I remember very distinctly doing that. And I remember waking up in the morning, and if I looked at one wall, which had this awful wallpaper on it, then I would become depressed. If I woke up looking at the painted wall, I would not be depressed. So there were all kinds of things, and that were awry. But I mean, I did not grow up with parents that were interested or sympathetic in the little problems of children. So all this was kind of ignored, even the anorexia. That was people told me to just eat more.
So is that when you realized there was a problem? Like, how did you get help or seek help? Did someone else recognize there was a problem?
No, in those days, I mean, I'm old. So in those days, people thought it was a behavioral thing. So your parents got angry with you for not eating because you were making them worry. And nobody looked at, why does a person want to starve themselves? I got down to 80 pounds. And I had no intervention of any kind. And I was just lucky that one day I'd been doing it for so long and denying myself and starving myself. And I saw this piece of meatloaf in the fridge, and I broke down and ate it. But, I could have died other than for that piece of meatloaf. So there's no recognition that anything was really wrong. It was an anger thing.
Wow.
Because of the times, right?
So you said you went on to become a nurse?
Yes.
RN, right?
RN, yeah.
What was that like?
I love being a nurse because one of the things about nursing is that you see immediate results. So, it's not like an office where you do things and you don't know if people like them and this is an active job where you're interfacing with people who need you all the time. And I absolutely loved it. I was one of those nurses that was always in trouble with the head nurse. I always got that, can I just see you for a minute? And then I'd get all shit because I was too nice to the patients, apparently.
Wow.
So I love nursing, but then I went into insurance because nursing jobs in Canada at that point dried up.
Really?
Yeah, there was an excess. They graduated an excess of nurses, and so I could only get night work and that shift work and that kind of thing. So then I went into insurance, and I loved that. I worked in disability claims and life insurance.
Okay.
I love claims, and then I ended up going to work for one of Canada's big 5 banks.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, neat.
One of the big baddies.
Yeah.
That we all hate. We all love to hate.
Unless you get dividends from them, then you start to enjoy them.
Buy stock.
Yeah, buy stock.
That's my advice to everybody.
That's my stock. I got that advice. Just you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah. People bitch at me all the time, and I go, you know what? Buy shares.
Buy shares. That's it.
Wow.
My mom's friend taught me that. So when did you actually realize? Like, did you realize there was a problem, and did you use coping mechanisms when you were in those jobs? How did mental health start to become a part of your overall life, like recognizing that mental health was something that you had to take care of?
Well, when I look back now knowing what I know now, it's very easy to see that I self-medicated. I got through a lot of things by self-medicating, using pot, using alcohol. I was never excessive, but I had periods of excessive use. But at that point, my problems were situational and periodic, and so I wasn't. I could get through things by smoking a joint or having a lot of drinks, and then I would sort of bounce back and go on. What happened was, in my mother, my father, and my best friend all died within the space of 2 years. And in 2002, in May of 2002, I couldn't get out of bed. I'd had a nervous breakdown. So what had happened was that I was dealing with all this stress and this loss and this trauma of these. And because of the way I was brought up, it's stiff upper lip. You just suck it up and you go on, and you don't grieve, and you don't do this, and you're a good little soldier, and you So I kept doing that, and I kept stuffing everything down, and I was in a very high pressure job with a new boss who clearly did not like me. And all of a sudden what happens with depression is it takes over. It'll take over the body. And that's what happened to me. I couldn't get out of bed. So I was sent to, my company did not believe that I was disabled. They thought I was faking it. And they sent me to a psychiatrist who said, you have really bad depression and anxiety, but that's okay because you can, because I was terrified. I had no idea. And even being a nurse, if you had told me beforehand that I had depression, and I would never have believed you.
I was similar situation.
I would never have believed you, because a girlfriend of mine, who the one that died, actually said to me short before she died, said to me, "You know, you have depression, don't you?" And I went, "Get away! I'm not depressed," because you. And that's the difficult thing about mental illness. You can't look at yourself and say, "Gee, I think I have depression." I had no idea. I thought I was cock of the walk, top of the charts. I thought I was awesome and everything, all good. And then I couldn't get out of bed one day because I hadn't dealt with it. Nobody that I'd been to psychiatrists over the years, and nobody had diagnosed me or treated me or anything. So then I was told I had a depression and anxiety.
And how was that treated?
Well, after 6 months, I got my own psychiatrist. And he started me on a course of antidepressants. And it quickly turned out that I was what they call treatment resistant, which means that these drugs either make you really ill or they don't work at all.
Oh, wow.
And so, and bear in mind that, excuse me, with antidepressants, you can't just go, "Oh, I'm stopping this and let's start this one."
You have to wean.
You have to have a dry out period,
yeah.
which is a really difficult time because it is a withdrawal.
Yeah.
And I went through 20 different types, the full spectrum of all antidepressants within the course of about 2.5 years. So.
Wow.
So anyway, then that was declared, well, you can't take antidepressants. So the next step, which took a while later, was shock therapy or ECT. I was scheduled for 12 sessions, and they did 10 and said, "It's not working, but hey, you've lost your short-term memory. Congratulations." So that was declared a failure. So essentially, the search was then on for what I could take. And that didn't go very well. And so the long and the short of it is, for many years, I was at home. After the antidepressants didn't work, I started self-medicating with alcohol in a serious way. So for quite a few years, I was at home. I was drunk. I was watching TV. And that was sort of my life. And I changed that by finally going to group therapy.
So that would be...
Sorry. What was going on with work at the time? I was just curious. What was going on with work?
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry, I'm running ahead. What happened with my company was that, and here's sort of gives you a clue about mental illness. After I'd been there 10 years, I was a senior employee. And after a month, all my personal belongings were returned to my home. Which kind of says it all when you think about it. Yeah. So I've been on long-term disability ever since May of 2002. Okay. So work and other employees, friends of mine that had been at my wedding and had been to my home for dinner, never contacted me again from work. The company discouraged that contact, and there was only one woman, God bless her heart, my friend Pat's, who has stayed in touch with me the whole time. So out of a department of 80 people and other people I knew, there we go with, the stigma, which is
But the
main
company
problem.
actually encouraged people to not, just to kind of keep their distance.
Yeah.
Totally. They instructed them to not contact me.
This is what happens. I mean,
Yep.
you really learn who
Seriously.
your friends are. You really learn
Yep.
who's for you and who's against you in your mental health journey when you deal with a situation like that. So I'm
Yeah.
really sorry to hear that happened.
Thank you. But it's, I think it happens to most people.
Yeah.
My peers that I hear talk,
it
a common experience that once it breaks out, because my opinion is that many things like depression and other mental illnesses, you're born with them, but it takes some type of trauma or circumstance for it to break open freely into life. And that's what happens. And then all of a sudden you're dead to people, literally. And that's the biggest problem, in my opinion, that we have.
I guess I kind of feel like a jerk for disappearing on you, Onika. I mean, that's
Yeah, JR. I mean,
Yeah,
I
about
forgive
that.
you. I forgive you because family, it's all love. But I think the challenge always lies, especially with people that are closest to you. It's not, and I said this in a Facebook Live interview that I did the other day. It's not like diabetes. It's not like cancer. You
Right.
can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't feel it. But experiencing it, it makes people who don't understand it afraid.
Yes.
They're afraid to connect with you. They're afraid to try to understand what you're going through. So they run away. They go out. They ignore it. They ignore the problem. They pretend that it's not there and it doesn't exist really. They do things like call you crazy and say that you're unstable. Get yourself together. I had one girlfriend tell me her mom used to tell her, just put on some lipstick and bake a cake. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
That was her advice to her daughter.
But you're right. You're right. It is fear, because I was fearful because I didn't understand it. It wasn't until you gave me this book. I don't know if you actually remember giving me this
I
book.
have it somewhere.
You have it somewhere, but you gave it to me and I read it, got an understanding. But the thing that really kind of made me say, "Whoa, this is real," is that the book had a bunch of successful entertainers and business people that are out there in the world, and their names were in this book saying, they have they're on the bipolar
spectrum.
They're in the bipolar spectrum, and I was like, oh, crazy. And guess who we found out this weekend was part of this
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey, right? So
Right,
it's
that's
kind of
right.
like it's
Yeah.
Found out
it could
she's
be
got
anybody.
bipolar too.
Yeah.
It could be anybody. So that's
Well, it's an invisible disease. It's an invisible illness. That's and in many ways it's an invisible prison, because how do we know walking along the street when we have interactions with people, unless they're in a wheelchair, otherwise physically incapable, or you can see the visible, but with us it's the invisible, and that is really a hard strike against us, because we don't get the flowers and the donations and the
Yeah.
We get
cards.
locked up. We get
locked
strapped down.
up. and we get ignored. But the one of the hardest things about the reaction, the stigma, is that makes the mental illness worse.
yeah.
Because speaking for myself with depression, I mean, picture this: you go from a really great job with authority and respect and staff and benefits and everything, but that's your identity, and you go from that, and in one day, next day you're at home on your own with nobody wanting to talk to you. Excuse me, nobody wanting to talk to you. So that in itself, if you weren't depressed before that,
Yeah.
you certainly would be afterwards. So what the stigma does, at least for me and millions of others, is exacerbate the symptoms that we already have, where you feel unworthy, you feel shame, you feel sadness. So people staying away from you is going to make that a whole lot worse. And actually, that was the reason that I ended up with multiple suicide attempts during my drinking, days.
So what was the first step of recovery to get out of that, I guess, that invisible prison, or that you were in at that point in time?
The first step was something that I really fought for a long time, and that was group therapy, because and group therapy has a really bad rap. It's unsexy. You have to listen to other people's problems, and you can come up with a whole raft of excuses as to why you can't or don't want to do it. And I finally had to, because I was so desperate with this terrible life I was leading, that I finally had to push that aside and say, excuse me, I'm going to try it. And I went to a large mental institution, psychiatric institution, and there were 4 other people there. And I thought that was overwhelming because there were 4 other people there. But then there were 4 other people like me. Mm-hmm. And that was my huge breakthrough, that because when you're alone and isolated and nobody calls you anymore and all this stuff, things become so much worse in your head. And so just connecting with people that were in the same boat as I was, that was I think my biggest breakthrough. Taking that step outside my door, and I was terrified to do it, but I did it.
And that's huge. That's a huge
it
thing.
was.
Like,
thank you. It was huge.
Getting out of bed, taking a shower,
Yeah,
like
huge.
making a meal, like just any of those things that you got yourself to your groups.
Yeah.
I'm sure week after week, making sure that you were taking care of yourself and exhibiting self-care for the first time. And I'm sure what seemed like forever to you.
Yeah,
was,
like I didn't even know what self-care was. I didn't know anything about cognitive behavior therapy, and that's the other thing that saved me, was learning cognitive behavior therapy, which teaches you the skills to deal with your illness.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'd had a really old psychiatrist who did not care. You know, he knew antidepressants and shock therapy, and that was it.
that was his like limits.
That's
what
all
he
I
knew.
got.
This is what I know, so this is how you're going to be
Yeah,
treated.
and this is,
Yeah.
and I'm old, and I'm not going to learn anything. So I really missed out on, somebody perhaps more current who could have been pushing me and I had to change psychiatrists. I had to do a lot of things for myself, but I have to say that group therapy, unsexy as it may be, that's the best thing. And I think anybody with a chronic mental illness needs group therapy, whether you're getting relief from medication or not, because medication is not everything.
I'm in therapy just one-on-one right now, and it's actually cognitive behavioral therapy. I've always found groups very challenging.
Right.
It has its challenges, just like any other situation. So, but I've done it, and I know it can be very helpful for some people. So,
oh yeah,
Yeah.
It for me, it was just the fact that other people, I was with other people who got what I was saying
and got what you're going through,
and got and I mean, it's always like any group of people. There's always going to be, your frustrations. But what was cool with me was that they had this sort of, at this hospital, they had, you graduated from like 4 to a bigger group of 10. And then I ended up doing this boot camp, which was 4 days a week for 10 weeks, which is very challenging for someone who, going to the store and running a comb through my hair was a huge deal. So that was huge, but that gives you self-esteem again, which is what I had lost. The fact that I got off my bum and did it every week, every day, that was huge. Plus it distracted me from being at home and crying.
Yeah.
It's always good.
That's a benefit,
That's definitely a benefit.
But tell us a bit more about being a lived experience advocate, I guess.
Okay.
And what do you hope to accomplish by, sharing your story?
Okay. I became a lived experience advocate 5 years ago, and I started because I started wanting to get out, and I started realizing that other people were in this situation and why, because it was stigma and all this. And so I thought, well, what do I like to, I thought about my passions, because I thought, well, what can I really do? And I thought, what are your passions? Well, you love to write.
Yay.
Check. Yes. You love to talk. Check. And you love to have others listening to you. So what better than to be a lived experience advocate and get out and tell your story? I'd had training. I'm a graduate member of Toastmasters International Speaking Club.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
So I already had, a platform on which to build, and I'd always loved public speaking. So that was really how I started. And I really wanted to, my main message, I realized pretty quickly into it, was that stigma is at the heart of this problem, this terrible problem, which is costing us, young people's lives, old people's lives, untold number of lives.
Yes.
And at first when I started speaking, because we all have our story and we all want to tell our story, I was kind of flailing around as to what is the point of my story and where do I want people to get out of this? And I realized that breaking stigma is what I want people to get out of it. And that is really my focus. I can tell my story all day long, but unless I lead people to what the cause of this is, and there's no way around that it is the cause of it, of why we don't have enough psychiatrists, of why people turn away from you, of why people don't understand. All that is stigma. So if we could deal with that problem, let's start with that, shall we? And then that's what I'm encouraging people to do, and in many ways teaching them to do.
So what can someone like me do to help break the stigma?
What I always advise people is that when you are aware of somebody that you know, who you have a relationship with, if you know that they have a mental illness, treat them like everybody else. You know, you can be aware. The parallel is, here's a comparison. If you have a friend that has a leg condition and he has to use crutches, right? So when you talk to him, you don't talk to him about his crutches all the time and his leg condition. You talk to him like a human being, but you are aware that he can't go hang gliding because he has this leg condition. So you are aware that your friend or family has a mental health condition, but you don't treat them as that diagnosis. You treat them as you would treat anybody else, because that's who they are. And if they mean anything to you, the most important thing, and I wish what people had done with me when I first got diagnosed, is to keep in regular contact.
I've had to learn that with Onika.
Yeah, because people go, well, I called her, so 6 weeks from now I'll call her. No good. You need regular sort of weekly, by whatever your routine was before, you keep it up. And like I say, you're aware that they have issues, but that does not define them.
Yeah, you aren't your illness. I always tell people I might lead with my bipolar, but I'm definitely not my illness.
No, you're not at all. And I think, but that the problem is people are frightened of how to treat you. Because they think they don't know what kind of behavior to expect. So people have to educate themselves on what mental illness is. Because the thing about mental illness, it's here to stay. It's not going away. We've spent very little money trying to do anything about it. So we are losing a lot of people, not just their lives, but their purpose of their life. Like I was losing the purpose of my life by being at home and drinking because I didn't know what to do and I didn't have any help. Let's change our thinking. And I always say to people too, at the very minimum, we can be kind and sympathetic with each other. Let's start there. Because how do you know that the person you're not, you're being short with or brusque with or curt with isn't having a terrible day,
going through something,
right? That is invisible. So why don't we start with basic sympathy and good old, kindness?
Yeah,
and that will take us a long way, because I think people make it more complicated than it needs to be. How do I deal with mental illness?
I was thinking about something as you were just talking there. I'm like, hey, we in school we take care of our physical health with physical education. We take care of sexual health to some degree with sex ed. Why not have, some sort of mental health classes in the elementary?
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's my goal.
Is that something that is that on the radar? Like, is that something people are thinking about?
Well, people are starting to create safe spaces for youth to talk about their mental health. I know you're involved, Faith, with a youth program, and you talk about mental health with them, and you do your advocacy there.
Yeah.
But we're trying, I think, a lot of schools are trying to create safer spaces for young people to discuss and open up, about their mental health without that stigma that you're talking about, that we all tend to experience. Because, when you're going through it, you hide it, and you hide it very, very well when you have to, just so that you could seem normal when, in your heart, something is wrong, but you don't know who to reach out to and how to ask for help. But once you get to that point, you do ask for that help, you'd like like at least some kind of, like you said, compassion, kindness, and understanding from your fellow man of over, you know, what you're going through. So they are starting to create those spaces, and I think it should be eventually, I'm hoping in 5 to 10 years, it's going to be something that's written right there in the curriculum as well. It's not just going to be a, you know, a countermeasure or something just added on, a filler, you know, at least something that's genuinely discussed in schools with students.
Well, it has to be. I mean, right now, the second highest cause of death for youth between 10 and 24 is suicide in Canada. Really? And that that translates to, if you extrapolate that out, what that looks like is 1 child in every Canadian classroom will die by suicide this year. So we have to get younger. And the other thing that fascinates me is that if you watch TV like I do, you see all these ads for things that we're not ashamed to talk about. You know, vaginal warts and anal this and that. But why? But we run for the hills with mental illness.
Crazy,
you know,
crazy.
And yeah, and we've got to. But why are we so okay with stuff that, you know,
doesn't even matter all that much.
Yeah, the most graphic things, but yet we're afraid of our brain. And if you don't have your brain, we think about it, you can replace or repair almost everything else in the body. But if your brain's dead, what are you?
Dead.
Yeah. So, but we've spent out of any medicine, we've not put the time into the brain, and that kind of horror fascinates me, that something that is makes us make war or peace, how it make love or war, you know, that's the one part we don't care about.
No.
That we haven't done any work on.
Well, hopefully things will get better.
We'll change, and that's what we're all about, right?
That's what we're all about. That's why we're doing this. That's why we had you on today, and thank you so much, Faith, for sharing your story.
You are so welcome.
You're a rock, like strong woman. Both of us are, and JR, you're a strong guy too. You're a strong guy too, don't worry. Yeah, right. Not according to Uncle Eddie, but whatever. We'll talk about that later. I put that out there. Yeah, but thank you so much, Faith, for being a part of the show today, and we really, really appreciate you telling your story. Is there anyone that you would like to say hello to?
I'd like to say hello to my rock, my husband, Roy. We've been together 26 years. Wow. We've been married for 18. Hope I got that right. Maybe not. No, 19. Sorry. Sorry, hon. He's been there for me through the whole thing. He had no experience in dealing with mental illness. And what I want to say about my husband is that he is an example of unconditional love. And that is what you need when you are looking for a mate. So if you're looking for a mate, forget about money, forget about looks. When it comes down to things like this, love is very fun until it gets serious like this. And this is what the test is. And so from the bottom of my heart, baby, thank you.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. Aww. I want that kind of love, and I'm not finding it online.
I'm telling you, when you are looking for a mate, unconditional love.
Yes, Faith, unconditional love, and that is the message for the day.
Exactly.
If you guys want to get a hold of Faith and just tell her how much you enjoyed hearing her story, or you had a question for her about being a lived experience mental health advocate, you can reach her via...
Oh, you can reach her via us, I guess, for now. That's Dysh, DYSH, at DaintyDysh.com. That's DaintyDysh.com. You can also reach us there as well. And you can check us out on our website, DaintyDysh.com. And Onika, what is going on with OnikaDainty.com right now?
Oh, I've got my relationship prostitution poem up finally. I know I promised it, I think, last week, but I was lacking. I'm sorry, guys. But it's up. It's one of my faves. I love it so much. So I hope you guys read it. And I've got another journal entry up there as well. Other things coming up? Well, you know what? To be announced.
Okay, finally.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, to be announced. I'm not giving away too much.
You're finally learning.
I'm not giving away too much. So, yeah,
don't give it away.
Check it out.
Yeah, and you can also check Onika out on Instagram at Best of Onika. You can check me out, Best of JR. That's pretty much it, unless you want to subscribe to us, which you should be doing if you're on Apple Podcasts.
Give us a 5. You deserve a 5.
If you're tuning in on YouTube, please subscribe, give us a like. We really appreciate it. If you need to leave a comment there, Onika will definitely get right back to you. And if you're on any other platform, we appreciate you listening. Leave a comment. Just thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you for listening. We thank you for all your support on our mental health journey of awareness and
self-discovery,
and trying to break the stigma.
Yes.
But that's it for me.
One last thing, my chapter is going to be coming out soon, guys. May 30th, Empowering Women to Succeed, the Leap Edition.
Yes.
It will be available for purchase. I think on my website. We'll figure that out. We'll figure out how to get the book to you.
I would hope it's on your website.
I would hope it's on my website, so you'll be able to purchase that
better
through
talk
me
to your
on
web
my
guy.
website. I've got to talk to my web guy. But yeah, so Empowering Women to Succeed, that's coming up. I'm super excited about it. I hope you guys are too. But with that said, that has been the dish of the day. I hope you guys have yourselves a very, very, very happy hump day.